Well, hello and welcome to another episode of My Heart on Pages. I am your host, Laquita Parks, and I am the CEO and founder of PayProV Publishing. And PayProV means pain, progress, victory, because I believe without pain, there is no progress, and without progress, there can be no victory. I enjoy helping people take their stories from a thought to a realization. And my guest today is one of those amazing authors who I helped take his first book from a thought to a realization. And I'm excited to welcome him to My Heart on Pages. And we're going to dive into the conversation. And My Heart on Pages is all about just that, My Heart on Pages. And so those of you who know me, you know that I'm always super excited. I absolutely love people because, I believe that 100% of everybody living and dead has a story. Now, it doesn't matter what that story is, it's all about taking it out of the mind and taking it from the heart and putting it out and sharing it with people who will benefit from your story, whether it's your true story, your autobiography, your memoir, your children's book, your creative imagination story, or your life depicted in however you want to. It's your story. And so My Heart on Pages is all about the why behind the story. So with that being said, I am going to introduce, or actually I'm going to have my guest introduce himself. I'm just going to say, welcome. Hey,
friend. Thank you for having me. Thank you for the invite. It's always a pleasure to be in your space and to be welcomed to share a bit about myself. My name is Dommartini Salien, but I go by Martini for those who know me. And I'm an author, educator, founder, CEO of a nonprofit, podcaster. I don't want to go down the list, but just
go down the
those
list.
are some of the few things.
Go down the list. Hey, this is, there's a song, somebody wrote a song, It's My Time to Shine. So y'all know I like music. So anytime I get to sing, y'all know that's me. I'm singing it. So go ahead and shine. Hey, my grandma used to say it's a poor dog that won't wag his own tail. So hey. Martini, I say wag, 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 wag. Okay, go ahead and wag your tail. This is the time to do it.
And I appreciate that. I appreciate that. So among the things that I do and I function, the authorship is one that I'm really starting to take a hold of and appreciate a lot of, because it's a craft, or an art rather, that is very therapeutic for me, and has been therapeutic for me from the time I began the process of writing this book here, A Life Worthy of Death. Up until somebody asked me the other day, how long did it take me to write the book? I said 12 years, and they stopped. They looked at me like, what? Yeah, 12 years. It took 12 years. And it legitimately did. I began in I want to say 2015. Yeah, 15 or 17, something like that. And no, way before that. No, long before that. I want to say back
because
in
I'm
like 20,
wait, you're
yeah,
I'm like, the
math
not adding up.
Yeah, the math ain't math. No, this is before I even left the military. I began. So yeah, that's one of the things about getting older that I don't appreciate. But whenever it is that I did begin it has been a process that, again, like I said, has been therapeutic, but also I've been watching myself become someone that I'm falling in love with a lot more.
Yes,
if that makes sense.
It makes a lot
And that's
of sense.
because and that's because I've been allowing myself to let my story come to life through words on paper, and of course through your publishing company, which have taken that opportunity to believe in me and to invest in me. So yeah, I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
You know what? I love that. You're the first person I've heard say that you're falling in love with yourself. And you know what, you hear women go through this mantra of, loving ourselves from the inside out, being unapologetic with who we are, and learning how to love who we are. And I teach young ladies the art of loving yourself from the inside out. But for male to say falling in love with myself, that's pretty big. I love that. I really do, because I'm learning that myself. I don't know if it's because I'm over 50 now, or because I'm able, or I'm allowing myself to embrace who I am and be unapologetic about it. So I love it. Now let me ask you a question. So
Yes.
I know it took you 12 years to write the story. Did you always know that you wanted to be an author, or did you know, because I have people that say, oh, I knew I wanted to be an author since I was 2 years old. I've been writing since my mama put the spoon in my mouth and I used it as a pen. So is that have you always known that you wanted to be an author?
Being an author was something that has never crossed my mind, even as I was in the process of writing the book. And I know that makes sense. That doesn't make any sense.
Yes,
Wait, you're writing a book
it makes
about your
sense to
life
me.
story. What's the what's the end result? What's the end goal? You just gonna write it just to have it sitting somewhere? No, being an author was never something that. So when I started writing the book, it was something that I wanted to do, kind of like a journal entry.
Hmm.
And initially, when I first started, I said I want to put down everything that I've experienced from the time I was born in Haiti up until now. And I want to just write it kind of like a memoir to myself or an autobiography to myself.
Hmm.
Um, it didn't shift into, hey, you know what? I want to get this out into the public's hand, into people's hands,
Hmm.
until I actually met you about or
Oh.
reconnected with you again
Hmm.
a little over a year ago. And I said, well, why not? Like, this
I
is
remember asking you
I
that.
don't want to take this with me. Yeah, I don't want to take this with me when
Yeah,
I'm gone.
yeah,
I want people to know this because
yeah.
somebody out there may be able to glean something from this story,
Oh, yeah.
and just the the impact of the story, the different themes, the thematic statements, and different things that Dominique goes through and lives through and experiences the coming of age of a young black boy
Hmm.
and an impoverished environment. And so I said, yeah. When I reconnected with you last year and I found out you were a publisher, I was like, yeah, why not? Let me just publish this and see what
Yeah,
happens.
and I like I
And
like the way that you orchestrated your story. And I remember that conversation. I remember when we reconnected about the Veterans Project, and I said, "Hey, I'm a publisher," and then you said, and I think I saw your profile or something, and I was like, "Hey, I know him." I know him. And I was kind of like, is that you? Is that you? And I saw that you were a veteran and reached out, and and the rest, as they say, is history. So tell us the name of your book.
it's called A Life Worthy of Death.
A Life Worthy
Um,
of Death.
a
Now,
life.
Worthy of Death. Now, it's a very interesting title. So how did you what was the motivation behind the title?
and and this is actually something. Then this is one of the things as I said earlier, that I'm falling with love with myself about, and that is listening to my intuition, but also whenever a creative idea or creative thought comes to me, not dismissing it, not ignoring it, not rejecting it, not negatively talking it away from my being, but taking it and using it for its intended purpose of even coming up into my being. So I want to say 2020, at the onset of the pandemic, we had gone to virtual, and the school I was teaching at, the grade level was sixth grade, and we were on a Zoom meeting. When I say we, the sixth grade team, the sixth grade level team, we're on a Zoom meeting, and we were doing kind of like a speed dating to get to know each other.
Mhm.
And so it was everybody, the assistant principal, myself, my co-teacher, the special education teacher, the science teacher, math, everybody that was on the sixth grade team was on a meeting, a Zoom meeting, and we were doing the speed dating activity where there was some fabricated questions that we had to ask each other in breakout rooms for 2 minutes apiece. So I was in the breakout room with two other people, my assistant principal as well as the special education teacher. And one of the questions was, "What is one of your greatest fears in life?" And so I sat there, and from knowing me, from knowing what I've shared about me, I prefer to listen more than to speak. So I let them share their stories for their fear, their greatest fear. The special education teacher shared hers, and the assistant principal shared his. And I sat there and I heard and I was really absorbing what they said, and it was my time to speak. So I paused for a second. I said, the greatest fear I have in life is that I did not live a life that was worthy of death. Those words, I uttered those words.
Hmm.
And they stopped. I could see their faces. They both were like, whoa.
That's deep.
And I said, let me explain to you what I mean by that. I said, I understand why people, I understand why we grieve. I understand why when we lose someone or someone has passed or someone has transitioned on, it hurts us so deeply. and there's nothing wrong with that. That's part of the human process, of the human experience. I said, but for me, I'd rather people laugh, smile, and be happy more than cry for me when I transition. When I've moved on, and this body's no longer animated, I prefer people to cry, to laugh more, and to be at peace, and to be joyful more than to lament and to cry. And I want that, because for me, as they say, give people their flowers while they're still alive. That's how I want to live. I want to live on purpose. I want to live with my purpose. I want to live in service of others, but I also want to live a life that is worthy of me passing and transitioning on.
Mm-hmm.
And I explained that to them, and they sat there. They couldn't. They were like, "Wow, I don't know how do we top that?" I mean, you really, that's just,
Like,
they've never heard that.
hmm.
Yeah.
That's pretty deep. That is pretty deep. As you were talking and I was thinking, I was like, wow, that really sums up the dash. You know,
Yeah.
what's that really sums up the dash. I think that, you know, that's pretty deep. And then you titled the book. And listen, we're not going to tell you guys all about the book because you're going to have to go and buy the book, okay? All I know is it is an amazing story. It is amazing. And is that the hardcover?
That's the hard. Yeah, I actually got it
Isn't it
from,
beautiful?
yeah, others.
Isn't it beautiful?
Yesterday, my book signing, somebody actually, I told them the price of the hardcover and the paperback, and they're like, "No, I want a hardcover." And when she got it, she literally did this, and I've never felt this before. She took it and she hugged it. She's like, "Oh, my
Yes.
own copy." And I was like, "Wow."
Listen, I'm telling you, this is my book of affirmation, and
Nice.
I just I have the paper cover too, but I
Yeah.
love I just love doing this, and just looking at the, and this is full color, of course, and just looking at the boldness, and that's why I said, you know, you don't have to just have it available for people,
Right.
because there are people who want, you know, they want it to last, and
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
paper books are good quality, but you want it to last, you know. And so I
Yeah.
love that. I'm sorry, I just had to ask that, but that's a beautiful,
No,
I
no.
think it's beautiful. I'm a little biased too, because I think it's simply beautiful. I think it's beautiful. I have to meet that publisher. I have to meet that publisher. Uh, so what has been, I know this is your first book, and
Yes.
there's always, and we talked about that. There's always some anxiety from the first book, and it's normal. It's totally normal. I had to tell somebody the other day, I gave them their proof copy, and
Mm.
I was like, okay, you need to, you know, read it and make sure. And it's like, I already paid for an editor. I have to proofread it too. And I said, yes. Well, you know, but why do I have to proofread it? And I said, every person has to proofread the book. You want to make sure that your book, you know, that because we're human beings, and
Right.
you know, there are different stages to editing. And
Right.
after you edit and you're looking at it for hours, then it's your book. You want to make sure. And plus, sometimes when you're going through, it's like, oh, you know what? I didn't say that the way I wanted to say it, because our goal is not to change it. And with yours was a bit not tricky, but yours was well done. But yours has different language in there. And I'm like, Dom, I don't know about this language. I'm not gonna touch that. You know, so definitely make sure. And she was like, you know, and it was just exhausting. And she just kind of felt, you know, she just kind of had a breakdown. And so I said, you got to look at it like this. Your book is your baby. It's your
Mm.
baby, and you've
Hmm.
taken your baby to the daycare. We're the daycare. We're the daycare.
Right. Right.
When you pick your baby back up, you want to make sure that we dried your baby. You want to make sure
Right.
that we fed your baby. You want to make sure your baby don't have no diaper rash. So you
Yeah.
have to go through and you have to check our work. You got to check your work. Just like in math, the teacher said, what'd you tell your kids? Proofread your stuff before you turned it in to me. Or check your work,
Absolutely.
your math, check your work. So when with the process, I know that there's some frustration. So how was it when you first got that book in your hand? You like, okay, with all the blood, sweat, and tears, and you got the proof in your hand. What was that feeling like?
I actually remember what it felt like, the exact moment that I received it, I had in my hand. It it almost felt, it was surreal, because I was like, wait, I'm reading. I have a book in my hand here, and I see my name on it, and I opened it up, and it didn't sink in that I wrote this. It felt like somebody else did. If that makes sense, kind of like an out of
Yeah.
body.
Yeah.
And even as I was going through, and speaking of the proofreading, so because I retain, I'm Haitian by birth. I was born in Haiti. It's my native tongue is Creole, French Creole, and so because I retained a lot of the Caribbean essence and our Afro Caribbean essence in the book, specifically the language, I actually have French Creole or Haitian Creole words in the book. I actually had to go back, and even though I speak the language and I write it, there's an official like spoken or written language of the language itself that I
Mm-hmm.
had to concur with and like
Yeah.
and compare to make sure I was writing it correctly. Because
Mm-hmm.
I sent it to my father first, so he can proofread it. Obviously, he's Haitian, and he read it. He was like, "Yeah, there's a couple words that you put in there that are in Creole that aren't really spelled correctly." And so I had to go back and
Mm-hmm.
do that process. But the feeling itself of having the book in my hand, it was surreal. I didn't believe it was mine, even though my name was written right on it. I was like, this can't be my book. Like, wait. And it's still kind of to this day, even still surreal a little bit, even though I've been out there now getting it sold and people are purchasing it. It still kind of feels like, is this me? Is this my
This
book?
week,
Like,
yes, yes, yes. And you know what? And with that, the story itself, guys. The story is a beautiful story. There are some twists and turns that I'm like, okay, well, so what happens next? What's gonna happen with this character? And you know, I'm still looking at that dad. I'm still looking at that. I'm not telling you guys the story, but I'm still looking at, okay, it's something in my gut that tells me there's a little bit of shady going on there, you know. So I don't know if that's the direction you're going, but hey, just to drop a piece of just to you know, drop a little seed, plant a little seed. But that's been, I loved it. So what have you been doing to get the word out? Because a lot of people, Martini, a lot of people think, okay, well, you know, I wrote a book, and we talked about this because I'm really open with my authors about this. It's all about the story. If you come in, and I'm all about, you know, that I'm all about the story, you know. So if you come in and say, hey, I want my book to be a New York Times bestseller, that is amazing. That's wonderful. And that is possible, you know, but there is investment in that area, you know, that, you know. And somebody said, I want my book, Oprah's books a bestseller. I'm like, okay, Oprah can write a book called Let's Spit on the Sidewalk, and it'll be a bestseller because Oprah has over 1 million plus followers. So
right,
if 500 people in 1 hour buy her book is a #1 bestseller. So
right,
and she's not gonna put a drop on a piece of paper without the assurance that it's gonna be on the bestseller list. So not saying that you know that you aim too high, because you got to aim high, but be
right.
realistic. We said we believe in realistic goals, because when we don't set our goals to be realistic, then when we don't achieve, then we feel like we're a failure, you know.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what have you been doing to, you know, to get the word out, to market your book?
So the great question. The biggest thing that I've been being intentional about is reaching out, because my target audience is middle schoolers,
Mm-hmm.
specifically grade 5 through 8. So that would be the age ranges of 12 to about 17, 16,
Mm-hmm.
17, or between 10 and 15.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've been doing is reaching out to the local schools, the local public schools, local charter schools around my neighborhood. And I stay in the Bronx, New York. And also, because it's a book that has the essence of Afro Caribbean thematic statements or theme or plot,
Mm-hmm.
I try to target neighborhoods or communities of predominantly Caribbean
Mm-hmm.
population. And so, yeah, just getting out there, literally just like as they say, beating the streets with my feet,
Yes. Tell
getting
the
out
people.
there. Yeah, getting out there into the schools, reaching out to admin and administrators in different schools, doing little small book signings and local Black-owned businesses. I make sure I specifically go to Black-owned businesses because
Mm-hmm.
that's what I want to support. That's what I want to have in my back in my corner to support me as
Mm-hmm.
well. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but yeah, just getting out there, just putting my
Yeah.
name out there.
Yes. So, I like that there are, and I've published for a lot of people, and the ones who you got to start by telling people that you have a book.
Yeah,
You have to start there. A lot of people are just, they publish the book. The book is published. It's on Amazon or whatever the platforms are, and that's just it. It's just there.
yeah,
I did a summit here recently, and I had a breakout room. And in those, they were able to ask the publisher whatever questions they wanted to ask. And there was a woman that said, my book, my book isn't selling. It won't sell. And I said, have you tried this? I've done that. And before I could get this out of my mouth, I've done that. I've done that. And I said, okay. I said, well, how about, set up a meeting with me and let's do a strategy session and see, maybe see what genre, maybe you're marketing to the wrong audience. Well, I've done all that and it's not. And I was like, okay, well, let's just have a conversation and see
right,
what
right.
we can do. And so I sent her my information, and she did book a meeting, but she didn't show up for it. And
Gotcha.
my whole point was, you have to do more than one thing. Social media is great. You put it on social media, but if you have 5,000 followers on social media, with the algorithms, only 1% of those 5,000 may see your
Mhm.
information.
Right,
So if that's
right,
where you
right,
stop, and then it's not going to work, it'll be very slow, and you have to keep doing it and keep doing it. But you got to get out. We're able to get out now. And there are people still doing virtual book signings and virtual in different groups and different, because I think that the virtual part is great because it gives you an opportunity to connect with different people, and
right.
promote on different platforms, because you're in New York, I'm in Georgia.
Yeah,
So
right.
you're able to connect through social media this way. So definitely having a conversation. And I know I have authors who, some of them don't do social media at all, but their books are making money. I mean, thousands of dollars, because they're having conversations. Hey, at the gas station, hey, you want to hear a love story? That's Linda Cornegay's way. You want to hear a beautiful love story? She always has her books in her car. Always.
Wow,
Want to hear a love story? Let me tell you about a love story. And she shares the story. And before you know it, she can walk in Walmart and get 10 sales in 10 minutes. So
wow,
just
wow.
talking to people. And so same thing with Anthony Wallace. He has six children, six books now. The poetry book, a book about his life, and four children's books. And
Mhm.
every single day he's selling. So he had one book, then he had three, now he has six. So what do you think they're doing now? He was doing three children's books for $50, because they sell for
Yeah,
$20 each on Amazon. And
yeah.
now that most of the people, I would say 75 to 80% of the people are buying all five of those books now.
Wow,
So that just, it's like,
wow.
hey, dude, you just wait,
Powerful.
did you just make
Yeah.
$85 in 2 minutes? you know with that, wait, and with three different people in three different areas at 85, we do the math, that's about 200 some dollars, they're almost $300, if I'm not mistaken, if
Right,
my math
right,
not
right.
funny. So you have to talk about it. So what's next for you?
What's next? So the it's a so by the way, I didn't mention this, and I apologize. This book is actually part one of five series, and the reason why I wanted to make it or broken it up in series is because it traverses or it chronicles the life of the character, this young boy named Dominique, from birth in
Mm-hmm.
Haiti up until adulthood, and it's loosely based on my life story as well. So I want to that's just too much in
Is
one
it
book.
that
I
shady?
broke it off into
Is
series.
it that
Yeah,
is it that is
it's
there some
pretty.
shady, there's some shadiness in
Listen,
there? Okay.
it's so far.
Y'all,
So far,
excuse me, I'm having my own private summer. We already talked about this. In a minute, I'll be cold, but those of you
go
who are
ahead,
50 plus understand where I'm coming
go
from.
ahead,
So
do your
it's
thing.
okay. So
But no, I
I'm sorry to cut you off.
no, no, no.
Share just a little tad in the book. Give us a read a little, just a little
A
smidgen
little
of your
excerpt.
favorite part in the book.
This is the one part that I continuously go to every book signing I've ever been to, and it's actually in chapter. Let me give you the exact chapter. Chapter 4. The chapter is called "They Can See You," or excuse me, "They Can Hear You,"
Okay.
and it's about when Dominique. So Dominique, the young boy in the story, he has a a particular place in Haiti, a little forest that he goes to, that he gets away from, and from all the different things that he experiences when in his life. And this particular time that he's in his forest, he climbs up a tree, and in the tree he can see almost everywhere around the forest and at the the forest land, and that's his oasis, his own place to get away from it. But in the story, he forced or flashbacks to a time when he first experienced death, or he's first seen what death was.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to read a small excerpt from that chapter, and I'm going to start it off right here. So it says, I was in the forest with my favorite creek laying on the top of the biggest branch of my secret hideaway tree. I was taking in the soft sound of the lulling water flow, while following the flight patterns of a bright blue and yellow butterfly across the tree line in the distance. I came here often when I wanted to escape from anything negative I was feeling or seeing around my neighborhood. No one knew where it was, not even Kasab or Jerry. So I could spend almost all day out there and not be bothered by anyone. I would be up in my tree watching below a mother wild boar taking her young to the creek for a drink, or listen to the birds sing and try to interpret what they were really saying to one another. Or I would even try to calculate how long it would take for the spider on the branch up above mine to respin its web from scratch. My own little oasis. Suddenly I heard some voices off in the distance. I sat up immediately to investigate and remained low and as still as an owl so I wouldn't be seen. It was three teenage bandits trudging through the forest, and they were fussing among themselves. I told you to stay out in front and keep watch, you cocobe, which means idiot. The taller one growled at the shortest one. I just had to go pee really bad and I couldn't hold it any longer, he retorted. Spoot, darn it. I don't care. You cost us a good lick, the taller one fired back. They were all carrying rifles strapped across their shoulders and chests, and the taller one had a pistol in his hand, waving it around as he was chastising the shorter one. Now we have to wait until later tonight and find another house on the other side of Doma, the taller one continued. He kicked at a nearby bush in a fit of rage. They all stopped talking at once and looked in the same direction. I looked in that direction as well because I heard what they heard. It was a dog. It was small and it was whimpering. I scanned the floor to narrow in on what it could possibly be, and I saw where the noise was coming from. He kept attempting to walk, but was going in circles and would fall every 3 steps. The bandit began heading in the direction of the dog. They finally reached him and were standing right over it. The dog didn't seem to be aware that they were even there because it kept attempting to walk on its hurt leg. All three of them were just standing there, heads tilted, looking down at this creature as though it were a science project or an experiment. On their faces was a mixture of fascination and disgust, waiting to see what it would do next. I looked on with raw sadness. My heart began racing at the thought of what they were thinking in their heads to do in that moment. The tallest one glanced over at the shortest one and snarled, "Next time you mess up our lick, this is what will happen to you." He lifted the hand that was holding the pistol, pointed it at the exhausted animal, and pulled the trigger 3 times. I looked away with my fingers in my ears and cringed. I looked back and they were all gone. The dog lay there, motionless. I waited up in the tree for as long as I could, and once I was sure they were completely gone, I climbed down carefully and walked over to where it was laying. This living, moving, breathing being a few seconds ago was now as still and unflinching as a rock. No more whimpering, no more panting, no more pain. I knelt down beside it, tears pouring down my cheeks, and began rubbing its head. Why was I crying? This dog wasn't my pet, I thought. I couldn't help it though. I sat down with my legs crossed next to it and continued petting its head until the sunlight began to fade all around me in the forest. Finally, I stood up and started gathering piles of fallen branches, palm leaves, and dried forest grass to cover it up while wiping away my tears with blood-stained hand. I didn't know why I was doing what I was doing. I had never seen it done before. It just felt like the right thing to do. I laid the last piece of palm leaf over the lifeless creature and began my hike back home as night finally caught up with me. I hope someone will be there to rub my head when my body is lifeless one day. This piece right here, yeah.
Wow. That's one of, I remember that part. That's one of my favorite parts. It kind of was like, as you were reading, as I was reading it, before when I was working on it, I was like, I know they're not gonna shoot this dog. I know they're not gonna shoot this dog. I know they're not gonna shoot this dog. And they shot the dog.
So that one, that actual piece, there was two pieces or two scenes or plots, specific areas or aspects of the plot that when I got to or when I got done with it, I had to go somewhere and actually like continue or finish actually crying and breaking down because of just reliving those that actually happened.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
again, it's based on my life story, and that was my first time ever experiencing death and seeing it and not really understanding it, but moving in such a way where I did. I couldn't even understand it as an 8-year-old. So
Yeah,
yeah.
that's what people that's one of the things that you just said too. When you're writing your story, especially when it's based or loosely based on your life, it brings up those things. It brings up things that you hadn't thought about in years, and you have to process. Once you process it, once you get it out, you don't have to go back in it. Once you go through it again, it's not going to affect you the same way. But if you don't process it, it will. And that's the thing about writing. It's a two-way street. It helps the reader and the writer. So I'm processing, and it's helping me to. I'm gonna relive it. I'm gonna relive it, but I only relive it that one time, and that's as I get it out. Because once you get it out and you unpack it, then there is no reason to repack it. Who repacks trash? You get it out, you
Right.
get it out and let it and let it go, and then you're able to process it. And when you're hearing it again, it's not the same. You're
Right.
able to talk about it, and that's what the healing is. We begin to heal from things that we didn't even know that we needed healing from, because those are those things that are packed away. It's kind of like you keep hitting your foot and it's sore, but why do I keep stomping this same foot? What's going on?
Right.
Do I need to cut my foot off, or do I need to move something, or move differently? And then you
Right.
begin
Right.
to examine the reasons behind it. And once you figure that out, oh, okay, this is why I keep stomping my foot. I didn't address this situation. Or, I need to push this sofa. It's too close to the edge of this door. So every time I miscalculate. So whatever it is, we're able to unpack it and don't have to repack it again. So you know what?
Absolutely.
Time always flies when we're having fun. So what's the next book event you got going on?
So I have actually a speaking engagement at a high school in South Bronx. I'll have it all up on my socials with
Yes,
the
please share.
information. And so for next step is the part two is actually scheduled to come out the week of 4th of July or maybe after that. But the July is when the second part is going to drop. I have
Awesome,
the
awesome,
cover. Yeah, I have the cover art designed for it and everything.
awesome.
And yeah, I'm just excited. But yeah, for me, next moves or next steps is that this huge speaking engagement down in the school in the Bronx, and then and any other speaking engagement I have, I'm gonna of course blast it on my
Yes,
socials.
please do,
Um,
please do.
but yeah, just getting the name out there, getting the message out there is next step for me with this
Awesome,
project. So.
awesome, awesome. So how can people purchase the book?
So I prefer folks to grab it on my website, which is www.shakennotStirred, all one word, shakennotStirred09.com.
Okay.
You can get it there. It's probably more cheap. It's cheaper actually on my website than it is
Yeah.
on Amazon or Barnes and Noble in
Mm-hmm.
terms of the shipping. The shipping is included in the price. So
Mm-hmm.
www.shakennotStirred09.com.
Okay.
And then anywhere else that books are sold. So
Okay. And listen, you know how we love it. We appreciate Amazon and Barnes and Noble and all those good platforms, but purchase the book from him. Go directly to his website and purchase the book. And how can and see and it's available in hardcover and paper
yes,
cover.
both,
Okay.
both.
And
Yep.
how can they get in touch with you? I know your website, but how can they follow you on social media?
So on Instagram, it's amazing never normal underscore 31. Amazing never normal, all one word underscore 31, and that's my nonprofit. You can find me there. I'm also on LinkedIn, Dommartini Salien. You can find me just if you literally type my name on Google, which I didn't even know I did it the other day. And I was like,
Right.
what?
Yes.
I put my first and last name on Google, and everything came up. My Instagram, my LinkedIn.
Absolutely,
So
absolutely.
yeah,
Everybody's like,
so
hey, I have a link tree. And it's like, Laquita, how can I get in touch with you? You can go through papervpublishing.com or just Google me. If you
just
Google
Google
me, you can
me.
find you can find me everywhere. If you just Google me, that's my link tree. So thank you
Yeah,
so much, Martini. It has been a pleasure, and I'm so excited for you, and I'm so proud of you. And congratulations
thank you.
again, job well done. And I look
Thank you.
forward for the next the book 2, 3, 4, 5, the whole series. I'm excited because I want to know how this story ends. I want
Mm.
to know. I want to know. It's one person in particular. I'm trying to find out what's going on with him. What's going on with him? But listen, thank you so much, Martini.
Thank you.
And
Thank
listen,
you. Thank
guys,
you.
this has been an amazing episode. I am so very thankful to Dommartini. Thank you for letting Paper V help you take your story from a thought to a realization. And listen, if you need help with your story, however, wherever you are in the story writing journey, we can help you take that story from a thought to a realization. If you just started writing or you have a story and you're like, okay, I got a story, but I don't know how to start, we can help you get started. And if you have started writing your story and you find yourself stuck, we can help you get unstuck. And if you've written your story and you're ready to just get it, edited and it's been edited, we can give you feedback. And if it's ready to be published, we can help you with that too. So listen, whatever you do, whoever you talk to, there is a world of people. Connect with the right people to help you with your story, help you take it from a thought to a realization. I'm all about the story because there is somebody waiting on the other end of your story so they can heal from their story. And with that being said, it has been a plump, pleasing pleasure, better than a triple decker peanut butter and jelly sandwich. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Until next time, this has been another episode of My Heart on Pages with Martini Salien and his book, A Life Worthy of Death. Until next time, be blessed. Have a great time. Listen, and don't cause no trouble. Okay? Be good to people. All right. Till next time.